place where I can reach across the aisle and work with the other party to solve problems. And I hope that we get to that point where we have, because I believe that the majority of our country is in the center. They're not as partisan as we've become. They really are looking to solve problems. But I could not vote for that because it's going to cause major problems next year. And if, I mean, the Department of Treasury said it's like we have like $1 billion hole. Our actual fund that we can manipulate is not the right word, but work with is $10 billion.
That isn't already taken by
federal programs, right? So the money that we have to work with is about $10 billion. That bill and a couple other things that we've done that I didn't vote for in the last couple of years is creating a $1 billion hole in 2 years. And then, okay, well, we're gonna have future revenues to solve that. How do you know that? How do you know we're not gonna have another state recession like we do? Our state economy is cyclical, automotive is cyclical. Majority of our state relies on our top two economic sectors are automotive, manufacturing, and agriculture. Now, agriculture is doing well, but automotive, that's a huge job churn. So it's just being a fiscally prudent person. I don't believe in basically taxing future kids for something that we have a responsibility to do right now. So that's why I voted against it. But so to your point about whether or not we can actually get there, we can get there. We've done it before. We have a wonderful team, as you met some of, just a few. We have a very large core of volunteers and a lot of interest and excitement. I think people are really concerned that their legislators are, that there's too much money. And I totally agree with that. There's too much special interests. Big corporations that are investing in campaigns, and the incumbent is definitely one of those people that I know that because I worked with a Congressman, Joe Schwartz, who was our congressman. I was mayor at the time, and he's a good friend of mine, and I saw exactly what happened to him, and it broke my heart because he's hardworking, smart. He not only had veteran service, but he was a doctor, he was a public servant, and he did a really great job representing the people in the 7th. And he came to my community as soon as he got elected, said what's going on, and this is what I'm all about, is coming into people's community and finding out what's going on. I know the school board, I would love to hear more about what's happening in Grand Ledge and the school board. I'm talking too much, because I try to really, but you asked me, I feel really passionate about this issue, and it's definitely winnable. So.
Well, last night, gave the results of recent polls, and the race has gone from being unwinnable to now a toss-up.
Yeah, well, I never thought it was unwinnable. So because there's research you can do, and we did some research, and it's definitely winnable. I think, like I said, majority of people are looking for somebody that's going to represent them, not represent corporate dollars, which is clearly the person that is currently Mr. Wahlberg's definitely got a very focused, narrow agenda, and it's funded, so not by citizens. So. And I would just say that, I think that's on both sides of the aisle. So for people that are undecided, I think they just need to figure out what the background is and what people's interests are that are either have served or are serving, and see how they voted on things. Because at the end of the day, you can talk a lot, but it's your actions really that. But so you want to talk about your schools at all, or?
Sure.
I think this is a learning opportunity for everybody here that lives in Grand Ledge.
It's an opportune time because
budgets.
On Monday, the board will have a contract ratified for the teachers. So the teachers agreed and passed a contract the other night. So the board will have that in front of them to ratify on Monday. So that's a good thing. From a local perspective, I think that it's important that at the federal level that we continue to figure out a way to fully fund special ed. I think that IDEA has been a complete, from a funding perspective, it's been unfunded mandates up the wazoo. I think that the federal government can put forth some ideas for education that the states can, adopt or not. I don't like the some of the race to the top and No Child Left Behind and things like that have been valiant efforts, but not necessarily in the way that we want. I think the Common Core, I don't have a problem with Common Core. I think that every kid in every state should learn the same things. I think that that's important. I think that unfortunately state governments took advantage of that as a political opportunity for their own benefit, and that's going to be a detriment to the kids ultimately. Infrastructure is another big one. There is some federal money for infrastructure as it relates to schools. At the state level, we obviously need to do some things. We need to get Proposal A either redone, or we need to get it back to what it used to be, which is funding for public schools, not for community colleges and not for the universities. There's a lot.
That was part of it. I did vote for the school budget because there were increases for all the schools. But
yes.
There was quite a few Democrats that did not, because the cyber schools, which are online schools, are getting the same per pupil money as, which is basically, a computer. So they're getting the same amount of money that our bricks and mortar schools are, which, if you really think about it, there obviously is some much more significant cost related to have a bricks and mortar institution with all the resources and assets that come.
Yeah, there's no busing for online schools. There's different costs. So yeah, no, but I think that the big thing, if we get the community college and the university money out of there,
that's about $500 million.
It's unbelievable. It would, and then it would take the 60 to 120 that we're going to see, and I think Grand Ledge will probably see 120. But that $60 to $120 a student could have turned around and ended up being $300 to $500 a student if the community college and university money is backed out of there. So I'm just being interested in, as many people here today said, Tim Wallenberg does not represent my concerns at all, and related to energy, related to transportation, related to on and on, education. I sat across from him and we talked education, and it was not pleasant. It just wasn't at all. So I'm definitely interested in getting some fresh blood in there and see what we can do to get things turned around.
Okay, great. And does anybody else have any questions?
We're pushing time, so maybe like one more question or two more maybe?
I have a question on education.
Yep.
Do we have bullying laws? And my granddaughter got beaten, literally to a pulp. Literally, bruises everywhere. Scrapes, bumps. Real big by two girls. And yeah, and I had that happen to my daughter. One girl held her hands behind her back and beat her all over her face, just pummeled her, and we took it to the police. And I'm just wondering how that's going to be applied. Do we have bullying laws? Are we just helpless when we send our kids? I sit down and I pray for our kids that they'll be safe this year. Nobody will go and shoot up a school. Nobody, we pray for their safety, because all the learning in the world doesn't teach what a beating will do.
Well, I thank you for sharing that, number one, because I know that's a tragedy, very personal. So I don't know if you can answer this, but I think that each school district right now, I don't believe we have a statewide law that we've tried to introduce that in the past, but it's not been successful. But I believe that in Saline schools where I was mayor, we have it in our school rules. So I think right now, like I said, they've tried to introduce it at the state level. I don't know if you can answer that anymore.
Well, every district does its best to obviously prevent these things, and Grand Ledge has done a wonderful job in putting forth PBIS, which is positive behavior supports, working with the kids to just get them to understand that they need to be respectful of everybody. And unfortunately, kids are kids, and kids do stupid things.
Yeah, I've seen it in
it happened when we were kids. It happened when it happened when we were kids. The difference being between when we were kids and now is that because of social media, because of Facebook, because of Twitter, because of all that, everything is amplified. So even though those things happened in Grand Ledge when some of us were in Grand Ledge schools, I wasn't, but when I was in my school, whatever, those things happened. But the chances of that getting outside of the district and people finding out were very slim, because it happened, it was dealt with, and that was it. But now, because of Facebook and Twitter and everything else, it gets amplified. So you hear about it everywhere. And so I don't know that the problem is any worse than it used to be. It's just we're more aware of it now because the news and the information
gets. In my case, it was my family members. Yes. Yeah, that's all.
I completely understand, and I'm very sorry for that. And I'm I also thank you for bringing that up. But I think that, you know, it's something that we're always dealing with, and it's not anything that's unique to Grand Ledge. It happens everywhere, and every district
But
is
you can
dealing with
ask
it.
your state legislator, your
Yeah.
current state legislator, to introduce a bill. That would be very helpful.
But was anything done about it?
It's in the courts right now. The other one, nothing was done. We made a report, but nothing was done. That was a long time ago, granted.
Which
I
Grand
was
Ledge
30
schools?
some odd years old. Huh?
What do you think?
Yeah. Only these happened in Grand Ledge. I don't remember it happening when I was a kid at Waverly, but when I went to Waverly.
Now, do you have any, sorry, but
Yeah.
you have been involved with public safety for a
Yeah,
while,
do you have
so.
any suggestions?
If you have any
2 decades.
suggestions, yeah, to be
Bullying-
respectful.
Bullying is a crime. The acts that constitute bullying are criminal acts. There's a no tolerance policy within the district here. We don't just take reports and document how parents will put out. If it's a crime, the crime is followed up
Yeah.
through the probate court.
Back with my daughter, it wasn't a crime, but now it is, maybe.
And cyberbullying is a crime. And there are laws and we enforce them. And I'd suggest to you that the likelihood of bullying in most cities now, I mean, it's still there. I mean, you can't rid society of
Assault is
crime.
assault,
But
right?
I'd suggest to you that the actions taken in response to bullying, particularly in schools, is a more marked effort at enforcement and a more marked effort between the schools and law enforcement. We've got a very good cooperative relationship between the schools and the police department at intervention. Not every bullying act can be criminally charged, but there can be intervention. We have 3 officers that are specifically trained in anti-bullying information. We work at all levels of the district, starting in kindergarten up through 10, with programs, some of which are they all have to do with protection of self and you and the law. But we have an anti-bullying, we have an anti-drug program, and the bullying is taught at 2 different levels, as I understand it. One's in early grade school, which is a fairly simple concept in terms of what's going on. But when you get up into the middle school and the 10th grade, they go back to talk about some of the finer forms of bullying. This doesn't seem like bullying to you. It may seem like good fun, or it may seem like what we're just having a discussion, or it may seem like what we're just talking, but it's bullying. And so sometimes painting a picture of what bullying is a way of reducing bullying. It's not all.
I consider
It's not all prosecuting and
bullying.
sending to jail. So that's something, and that's something that has occurred in the last decade, and it's gotten stronger in the last 5-6 years.
And there have been some efforts lately at the state level to, zero tolerance was a thing for a long time. And the problem with zero tolerance is it left no flexibility to the districts at all. It was,
Well, I think
you know,
districts are.
it was
should
my
have
way,
some
it was
flexibility
my way or the
in
highway.
this
So
situation.
the legislation that's been coming out lately, the legislation that's been coming out lately is beautiful because it does give more local control. And so there are no absolutes, absent right now of the way the legislation is written, absent guns. Guns is an automatic.
Yeah.
But, because, there have been instances where, kids have brought in, their Boy Scout knife, that they were very proud to have earned, and, they wanted to show their teachers or show some of their other friends. Well, that was considered a weapon, and the kid was automatically, suspended and expelled for 180 days. There was no flexibility. That was what it was. So I think that there's some they give the locals back their flexibility on some of these things, but we're always, cognizant of the safety of the kids in the schools. Obviously, we do everything we can to provide not only an academic situation for the kids, but also a safe situation for the kids.
Zero tolerance used to mean if it was just detected, then there would be some strong administrative action, and it was cookie cutter. Zero tolerance now means it won't be tolerated, but we have a variety of
Of
tools
actions, yeah.
that we can use. It is always addressed. We don't just look away and go, those people are the first to go.
Great, well, thank you all for coming, we really appreciate it. Keep in touch, we do have a great opportunity here, and to your specific points that we doing the work, so I think that when people know more about what's happening, and I always tell people to check how the incumbent voted if they have any questions, and see if their interests are being represented. And that's what I said in 2012. I think that that's very clear. There's a very clear difference of values here, my values versus the incumbents. So, thank you for your time, and if you have any, as you heard, we have some staff here. If you have any further questions or want to get involved with our campaign, we'd love to have you join us for a winning campaign. Thank you.